Walk into some people's homes and something feels off. Not dirty. Not broken. Just too perfect. Every surface wiped. Every pillow at the exact same angle. No dishes in the sink. No shoes by the door. Like no one actually lives there. Most people see that and think, wow, so organized. Psychologists see it and think something completely different. Because a spotlessly clean home isn't always a sign of discipline. Sometimes it's a sign of something much deeper. Much older. Much more painful. And today, we're going inside the psychology of people who always keep their house clean. Not just tidy. Always. Obsessively. Without fail. Stay with this. Because by the end, you're going to understand something about yourself, or someone you love, that nobody ever says out loud. Let's start with what's real. Some people are just naturally organized. They like structure. They sleep better when the room is clear. Their brain functions better without visual clutter. That's legitimate. Science backs it. A 2010 study out of UCLA found that people who described their homes as cluttered had measurably higher levels of cortisol throughout the day. That's the stress hormone. The one that keeps your body in a low-grade fight-or-flight state. A clean space genuinely calms the nervous system. That's not a personality quirk. That's neuroscience. But here's where it gets interesting. Because there's a line. And most people don't know exactly where that line is. On one side, cleaning is a form of self-care. It feels good. It ends. You move on. On the other side, cleaning never really ends. Because it was never really about the mess. Think about the cleanest person you know. Not just clean. Always clean. No matter what's happening in their life. Do they seem relaxed? Or do they seem like they're one out-of-place cup away from a breakdown? Hold that thought. Here's something nobody tells you about chronic cleanliness. For a lot of people, it has nothing to do with the house. It has everything to do with what they can't control. Psychologists have a term for this, compensatory control. When life feels chaotic, unpredictable, or emotionally overwhelming, the brain reaches for something, anything, it can control. And a physical space is one of the easiest targets. Think about it. You can't control whether your relationship falls apart. You can't control whether you get that callback from the job. You can't control whether the people you love stay or leave. But you can control whether there are crumbs on the counter. So that's where the energy goes. People who grew up in unstable homes, emotionally volatile parents, financial insecurity, environments where nothing was predictable, often become compulsive cleaners as adults. Because cleaning was one of the few things that gave them a sense of order. Of safety. Of I made this better. And that pattern carries forward long after the chaos is gone. The house gets clean. But the anxiety that created the habit? It doesn't. And here's the part that's hard to sit with. Cleaning feels like productivity. It looks like productivity. So nobody questions it. Not even the person doing it. But ask yourself, when they clean, does it come from a calm place? Or does it come from a place that's trying to outrun something? There's a specific type of anxiety that doesn't look like anxiety from the outside. It doesn't look like panic. It doesn't look like crying in a parking lot. It looks like a perfectly made bed at 6 a.m. It looks like Windexed mirrors and alphabetically arranged spice racks. Psychologists call it high-functioning anxiety. And people who have it are often the most put-together people in the room, on the outside. What's happening internally is something else entirely. Their brain is in a near-constant state of scanning for threats. Anticipating what could go wrong. Trying to prevent chaos before it starts. And cleaning becomes the physical ritual that temporarily quiets that alarm system. The moment they wipe the counter, the brain says, okay, that's one thing I handled. The moment the floor is swept, the brain says, okay, that's under control. It's not joy. It's relief. And there's a massive difference between the two. Joy says, I love having a clean home. Relief says, I need a clean home or I won't be okay. One is a preference. The other is dependency. And the most dangerous part? Cleaning is socially celebrated. Nobody pulls you aside and says, hey, I'm worried about your cleaning habits. They say, wow, you're so put together. So the cycle continues. Invisible and unquestioned. But there's another layer to this. One that's darker. And less talked about. Because for some people, the cleanliness isn't about anxiety at all. It's about identity. Somewhere along the way, some people stopped having a clean house and started being the person with a clean house. It became a core part of how they see themselves. How they measure their worth. How they convince themselves, and others, that they have it together. And this is where things get quietly dangerous. Because when your identity is tied to your environment, any threat to that environment becomes a threat to you. A guest who leaves a glass on the wrong surface isn't careless. They're a threat. A partner who doesn't fold laundry the right way isn't just different. They're wrong. Kids who make messes aren't being kids. They're creating evidence that you're losing control. Psychologists see this pattern connected to something called contingent self-esteem, where your sense of worth is conditional. Where you only feel valuable when the conditions are met. And the condition here is, everything in its place. The moment it isn't, the unease isn't just I need to clean. It's deeper. It's I'm failing. I'm not enough. Something is wrong with me. That's not a cleaning habit anymore. That's a wound that learned to wear an apron. So now the question isn't just why do some people always keep a clean house? The real question is, what happens when they can't? What happens when life comes in, grief, illness, heartbreak, exhaustion, and the house doesn't get cleaned? That moment tells you everything. For people who clean from a place of peace, a messy house during hard times feels okay. It's temporary. It's human. They know they'll get back to it. For people who clean from a place of survival, a messy house during hard times feels like a collapse. Like proof that they were never really okay to begin with. It spirals fast. This is the tell. And if you recognize yourself in any of this, it doesn't mean something is broken beyond repair. It means something inside you adapted to something hard. Something that happened before you even had the language to describe it. The cleaning worked. It helped you cope. It kept you functional. But at some point, coping strategies need to be examined. Not judged, examined. Because the goal isn't a dirty house. The goal is a clean one that doesn't own you. The cleanest homes sometimes hold the heaviest secrets. Not always. But sometimes. And next time you walk into someone's perfectly spotless space, or catch yourself reorganizing the same shelf for the third time this week, ask a different question. Not what are you cleaning? But what are you trying to quiet? Because that answer, that honest, uncomfortable answer, is where real peace actually starts. And it doesn't need a mop. Drop a comment and tell me, is cleaning something that calms you down, or something you feel compelled to do? Because that difference is more important than most people realize.